You're listening to Real with Coach Herb and B, a podcast that brings you community and culture with your host, Coach Herb and B.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Coach Herb, and I'm always joined by my homegirl, B.
Hey, everybody.
Mr. Ben in the background. And we have a special guest, Miss Anita. Anita,
yes.
So I have something to say. And I know it's going to sound awkward, right? I'm just going to go right into it.
Right off the jump.
When I saw the name Anita, let's be honest, like, okay. I think it's a black lady, right?
And then yes, Herb, I love you.
Oh. And I'm sure you get that a lot. So I'm not the first one, and I probably won't be the last, right? Right?
A lot of people think my name's Spanish, and they're surprised.
Side of Spanish? Yeah. When they see you, they're like, okay, so she's not black, and so she's Spanish.
And it's your last name is Vermeer, correct?
Vermeer, yeah.
Vermeer.
Yes, Anita Vermeer.
So is that like, what is that?
So welcome.
What is that? Is that French?
Exactly.
It's a Dutch painter. I'm actually apparently related to some painter like a couple hundred years ago.
All right,
you better own it.
So why don't we just go right into it? Let's just get real and give us a little bit background about yourself.
All right. Well, thank you for having me today. So one of the biggest things about myself that I am excited to share is that I started writing some books and publishing them. And it's been actually kind of a dream of mine for over 20 years. And so now actually finally putting, not just putting pen to paper, but putting it in the public and other people's hands and in kids' hands and families has been just really exciting. So kind of the newest thing for myself.
All right. And is that caused by the COVID, or is it just something that you've been doing for a little while?
Well, actually, the riddles and rhyme books that I wrote, I started doing like 20 years ago when I was working with kids, like just making them up in my head and stuff. And then during, actually a couple years ago, I was like, I'm going to get this done. And I, pulled out my old dusty notebooks and started really drafting a lot more into it. And then right before COVID started, actually, I was dusted. I had, was ready to get them published, I guess you could say. So
yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Right,
nice.
Cool.
So as I mentioned, Herb already jumps into that first one. He says about the rhyming book. Yeah. Like, what are your children's books about? And B, what was your question?
That was literally going to be like, what the question was the rhyming? Like, no, like why the rhyming? Why did you choose your style of writing as well?
Well, the books that I published are more like a kid's help or a parent teacher type of help book, because that particular one, what it is, it's like a riddle on a top. So there'll be a topic. So for example, like Thanksgiving, and then there'll be 8 riddles that go along with Thanksgiving. And each one of them, they have rhymes in them, but then at the end, there's a blank. And so the kid has to kind of guess what it is. And so the reason why I did that is because I used to work with toddlers and preschoolers, back when I was much younger, and would do these things at circle time, because I would read all these kids' books that had rhymes in them, Dr. Seuss, like all those kind of stuff, right? And the kids loved them. And then fast forward, 15 years later or so, I'm teaching 2nd grade, and I'm got degrees in education, and I'm like, wow, like rhyming is actually a literacy skill and important, and da-da-da. So finally I was like, I need to craft these ideas that I had. So that's kind of how it came to be. But I have so many other writing ideas once I got started and got over some of the hurdles in my last few years.
Yeah. All right.
So when it comes to, those new ideas that you're coming up with, what is generally your process for, your writing style, or the ideas that eventually you kind of run with to make a book? Because I know for some people it can be a strike of lightning. You just see something in life and you decide to do it. Or it could be, as you mentioned, you've been, working with children for 20 years. So you had been doing this kind of unintentionally for the beginning, and then just realize this is actually really important. This is towards their development, and it's something that everybody can benefit from.
Yeah, well, I have a son who actually has inspired me a lot too. He's 6, so some of these things come to light with him, but also just other things in life. Like I'll have an idea of something, and you're asking about my processes. And for example, I'll take out my phone and notebook, the notes, I should say, in my phone. They're a mess. They're all over, but you can search them. And so sometimes I just randomly will write an idea down, and then to get it to the next step. And I have about 2 or 3 other books that I'm working on that I keep kind of jumping around. I have Google Docs that I organize it on. And so I kind of take like an idea and then flush it out into sort of chapters or topics or sort of themes to spread it out. And then that way I can dive into one of them. I was actually not a very good writer growing up. I struggled early in college writing, and I had to take some of those remedial writing classes to kind of put it together. So, and then when I was teaching kids, I learned sort of some writing strategies, like simple, like using Post-it notes to organize your thoughts. So I kind of do all that, but with technology. So I take things that I learned about teaching writing and apply them to myself.
Right.
I think that
learn on the fly, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's fun and it's creative and ideas that just kind of come up. So, you know, I mean, I did this as a side thing. It's just something that I feel inspired and I want to inspire others, you know. So if I jump around from topics, and it's also self-healing in a way sometimes, like, you know, you all, especially during COVID, I find myself writing a lot more because I would be maybe a little more anxious about things going on. Like, for example, I went to the grocery store and then I come home and I'm like, okay, I need to pick one of my Google Docs to just flush out and write. And it just like puts me in that mindset of creative space and, you know, out of sight and mind of what's actually going on in the world.
It's your getaway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
When I can't get away.
You find yourself like coming back to stories like back in your childhood, or is it more just stuff that you've encountered in your 20-year experience of working with kids and stuff like that?
You mean the stories that I'm writing about?
Yeah.
It's a mix of things. One of the things that I've been really interested in the last couple of years actually is about dating stories. I have probably about half of it. It should be coming out pretty soon by the time you know, this goes and stuff. But basically, it's written. You know, the world of dating. There's like all these apps, and I'm sure you hear about people that go out and being a single mom dating has been also a challenge. And these first dates, I just can't believe sometimes some of the things that I see and hear. And so I just started writing notes sometimes because I would like text my friend afterwards, like, I can't believe this. And so then in the last couple of years, I started transferring those through, like I was saying earlier, in my notes and on my Google. And so, I mean, that's a story that I'm actually really excited about and talking about with my friends because it's really real. Like, it's about my first dating stories and kind of to be like advice to women on like, you know, what do you call it? Like thinking about yourself and thinking about how to overcome being confident, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I heard one the other day was the person goes in right away. Pretty much the first few questions, one of them is like, oh yeah, do you see yourself getting married? And I'm like,
I don't know if that's a great like first couple of questions.
That's that question. And you know, the person that I was talking to was quite younger, so they were like, oh yeah, you know, because you kind of want to know what the future holds so you don't waste your time with this person. But on the other hand, what about getting to know the person before you decide that you marry this person? Like,
that's true. You know, well, imagine the dating stories I have, you know, when people in their 30s and 40s, and I mean, some of the story, I mean, because, you know, everybody's got baggage or history, right? But you're hearing about them in your first 30 minutes of meeting somebody is pretty
I think that's a lot. That's a lot.
So I'm looking forward to sharing that because I think I've actually already sent some chapters to friends, and they're like, they say it's funny and they laugh from it, but they also think that it's real. So I'm looking forward to that one.
To hear about the dating books. Yeah, it sounds like you are starting to explore. Maybe you have already been exploring other genres of books, not just children books. For me personally, hearing these, it really kind of draws my imagination to almost like a a picture book, seeing you're talking about baggage coming on first dates. You have somebody like a comic strip coming up to their date. They just arrive with a train full of baggage and they just plop it down. It's like, hi, your name is, and it's like, wow, that you have a lot to bring to the table right now, and we just are meeting. So are you thinking about doing other kind of styles of books other than just children?
Yeah, well, that dating story is actually more of an adult book, obviously, but and I'm thinking about adding like text message bubbles and stuff like that on it. So you were talking about
That's
comedy.
awesome.
I like that. Yeah.
90% of the dates or more started with text messages, and
Right.
I mean, you see those funny memes out there of like how they start, and and I'm gonna have one chapter just devoted to those people who text and never met, and some of the bizarre things that go on with that.
Yeah. Oh, you text your friend, be like, if I text you, say help or something, you need to
or
call
just
right away.
if I text you, call me. Yes.
In about 9:30, I need you to call me, and if I pick up, I'm out. If I don't, things are going
Correct.
Yeah.
If I don't, I think I'm okay. Right.
Well, a lot of people, I think, over the COVID have been doing a lot of binge watching. And so for me, another thing that I had started re-watching is the Sex and the City series on HBO.
Okay.
So it's very relatable to these stories. And so when you're just talking about like the texting your friend, they didn't have texting back then, and around 2000s or whatever, but they were like calling each other or running into each other and telling them to get each other out of dates and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like dating really hasn't changed in
the body language signals, like if I do this, that means if I do this, that means it's not going well. You need to come and rescue me.
Coach Herb has those baseball signals down for when he was younger and he had to get out of dates.
Right.
So you had kind of mentioned
earlier.
Yeah, you had mentioned kind of earlier about not being a great writer when you were younger. So now, does that mean that you rely a lot, or how do you kind of get people to help you edit or help you publish? Because for me, I was definitely not a great writer growing up. I can't speak for Herb and B, but having great ideas like you do,
I wasn't.
To be able to get them to the point where you're publishing books and really making a difference in people's lives. It's really interesting to hear about that story. So do you get a lot of people who or how do you get to that point of getting people to help you or getting them to publish your work?
Well, one of the things that I had been doing over the last couple of years was a little bit more research on how authors are getting their books published. And I learned there's a lot of communities out there and people, and there's like beta readers. So there's like a difference between a beta reader and an editor. And so a beta reader is somebody that can take your work and give you some authentic feedback as to whether it's, sounds good, if it's, relatable, those kinds of things. And then an editor is somebody who will like cross the T, dot the I's, and make sure. And so one of the things I'm just being humbled about it, right? Like when I grew up in school, or even in college, like it was almost bad news to let your professor know that somebody else read your paper, because then there's always this plagiarism, but yet it's actually part of the writing process in the authentic writing author's world, is to get somebody else to look at your work, to give you feedback, to and to edit it, because there's always going to be a T or a dot, missing or something like that. So there is like a few of online communities that I found, as well as some friends and things like that. And the other piece that I wanted to share about that is it's important for me to model for my son too, because he sees me not just, although I don't always write on paper, I verbalize to him that I'm typing on a computer, and then I'm like, I'm going to go back and fix things, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to ask somebody to try to verbalize that, it's okay if you don't think you're a good writer, because honestly, the first step in writing is to just brain dump and get things down, and then move forward with that.
Right.
Which I think is an awesome kind of segue or opening to this next question, which I feel is a very important question to ask. With COVID going on right now, shaking up the life of children and families, B and Coach Herb both have children and are, if not already experiencing some changes in their lifestyles very soon, with September kind of around the corner, going to be experiencing these changes. How important is, for you at least, as an author and a parent, how important to you is reading to your children going to be, in your opinion, during this, crazy transition in life?
Well, I think that actually reading is always important no matter what. And I think that one of the biggest pieces of code is if you can keep like for that whole mental health and all the stuff, if you read it, is to try to keep some normalcy in your life. So if reading is already a priority and important and part of your bedtime routine or part of whatever it may be, then it's important to keep that during all of the COVID as well. And actually, I almost feel like it is even more important because the direct instruction of reading or the handling books and stuff may look differently now that kids aren't like going in a library. Like, for example, I was just talking to a friend the other day that, you know, in kindergarten through second grade, they start learning, or even younger, how to pick books out of a library. And then they bring them home and their parents read to them, right? And they start learning, wow, this book has like 1,000,000 pages and the cover looked cool, but the story was boring, or vice versa. But they were going to miss that, right? When they're not picking out their own books anymore. They can't go in the library and touch 50 things.
Yeah.
So it is really important to keep reading. And the thing is, it doesn't always have to be about books. It could be reading about anything. It could be reading labels. It can be reading signs, you know, when you're driving or at the park, or cereal boxes, you know, all of those kinds of things. I think that it's important to make more intentionality around it, because it is going to be a lot more of a virtual reading, teaching atmosphere for children. And that's my opinion, and as a parent, but that's kind of what I feel like I've already done, like before kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
So keep doing that as they're transitioning to becoming full readers is, I mean, I think it's more important.
Yeah. I feel like my child has already started to learn to like read. She is like, or she's memorizing us when we read memorizing the words.
Yep, that's one of the developmental milestones.
Maybe is that what it is? Okay. Yep. Yeah, because I was like, she's doing something. And she likes the books that incorporate her pressing a button to listen to a song that goes with the actual I guess story. And I'm like, yeah, just as long as it keeps you occupied because she knows when to press the button.
Do you switch the buttons up on her beat?
I don't know. I just let her do her thing. I don't know if it's the right button or not.
You don't try to mess with her and be like, oh, this button. And then she goes, no, it has to be this one.
You've met her. She definitely does that.
She would tell you. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, she would be like, Mommy, no. And
try handing a book upside down to them and ask them to try and read it and see what they do.
Yeah, I'm going to do that because she will get so mad at me.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, Anita, I was gonna say it's you know, it's really great to talk to you during this podcast for me personally, because I have worked with kids in childcare, summer camp, all those things for about 16 years, and I was a preschool teacher for about 5 years roughly. And I think it's really interesting to hear you talk about your previous experience, and you just said about the whole turning the book upside down, because I know that's, again, a developmental milestone to see if the kids realize, like, no, it needs to turn the other way. Are there other resources that you would suggest to parents, to teachers out there, to be able to use alongside of your books? Because I know that's a really fun thing as a educator or as a childcare professional to be able to, you know, incorporate to your story time. So it's not just you sitting there reading a book, because not everybody reads the same way. So I think it's just a nice question to kind of phrase to our viewers, if what they can do to add to the story.
Right.
I think the biggest thing to do, whether it's my books or any books, and to add on to that, the other question too, is like to always model it and be intentional in explaining what you're doing. So like, even if it's a 2-year-old holding a book and it's, you know, upside down, you'd be like, I'm going to turn it this way so I can see the pictures and the head on the top, or something like that. Right. And so as they get older, you know, and with my books, like for example, my rhyme books, is again being intentional, like saying, you know, hey, like, quirky, it rhymes with something at Thanksgiving. What does quirky rhyme with? You know, like after reading the riddle, and then they're like, you know, does quirky rhyme with, you know, so it's, I think, important to just always make sure that you're pointing out these things and model yourself reading. If they see you on a, and I do it too, right? Like I'm looking on my phone, like FaceTiming, flipping through, if they see you doing that, then they're going to probably go through books quick too, and just do it quick, right? Because that's what they see.
Right.
But even myself, who will actually read on a technology device, I will model and say, I am reading something. Look, I just read all of this, you know, so it's, whether it's in a book or on a paper, I think that's just going to be important to always point that out to them, and intentional, because I mean, they look up to us, right? Your parents are always your first teacher.
They watch all the moves. Every move you
Yes.
do, they watch it.
Every word you say.
Yes, every word you say, even when you think you haven't said. Yes, exactly. Exactly. The bad ones come first.
My kids are teenagers, so like the first time they ever heard me curse, they were like,
At what age was that, Herb?
Oh.
Probably around like Adina's 12. Adina was 12.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That means you held it in a long time.
I did.
You held that together.
Yeah.
You are something else. Yes.
I only do it like when they're not around. So like, you know, she was like totally.
She just heard that.
I think she came home and was like, "Mom, Dad said a curse word."
Oh, she dimed you out? Shit.
And
you can't take her anywhere.
Yeah, nope. She's done.
I know, but the thing is that Mom had said that stuff way before, so.
Oh wow!
So she knew what was. Yeah,
I said it.
Did you see those bus tracks? Those tracks on her back? Herb just backed that bus right up.
He did. That's right. Oh man, Herb 12. That's something new. You learn something new every day. I know I do.
But I mean, like I said,
they're called Herb facts.
She heard it way.
He says it wasn't just me, just from me for that time.
Yeah.
Anita, you mentioned your son a whole lot too. I was wondering, what is, obviously you can't step into his shoes, but from your perspective, what does story time mean to him? And what do have you kind of talked to him like, hey, mommy wrote these? Does he quite understand that yet? Or is he just like, oh, this is super cool. Like, I really enjoy these books. They're kind of helped me at this time.
He really likes my rhyme books. So as the last few years, I had pulled off some of these ideas and I was doing like little play groups with his friends and things like that. I would read them and I would have like picture cards. So for example, for Halloween, a picture of a skeleton, a picture of a witch, a pumpkin, etc. And at circle time. And so he would be sitting there with his friends and I'd be like, read something, it rhymes with gelatin or whatever, and then they'd all grab the skeleton picture and that skeleton. So they so he like been kind of exposed to this along the way, so he always has really liked it. And when he saw me furiously writing this spring to finally like formatting it and getting it done, and when it came in the mail, he was like so happy for me. It was like so awesome to have my little kid like hugging me and go, mommy, you have a book, it has your name on it. Like he was so excited. So
you were his hero. Yes.
Yeah, but I've always made sure he's had that love of books. So the other thing I've always tried to do is make sure I have that book routine for him at bedtime. He's one of those kids that if I said if he doesn't listen, like at cleanup time, brush teeth time, or whatever before bed, and I said, well, you're not going to have time for 2 books now, it's only going to be 1, then he gets all mad and he wants to hurry because he wants 2 books. So
I love it.
He's like into the 2-book routine.
But getting him to do it independently is a different thing, and which is why, like I was saying earlier, to model it, because he's always loved me reading to him, because it gets back to that bonding time with parents and child. It's really important, and I think that's one thing that COVID has given us, right, is more time to be with our kids. Sometimes a lot of time.
A lot more time. Yes.
Well, this leads perfectly into the next question, where I was going to say, so you're in this kind of sweet spot. You mentioned your son being 6. Bianca's kids are kind of are preschool age. Hers are getting middle school to high school, or middle school, high school for his daughter, college for his son. What are your plans for distance learning when it comes to your son? Because he is that perfect age. I'm not sure if you're in the Fairfax County region, or I know you're in the DMV area. But so soon you're going to have to face the distance learning. What does that mean? Staying home with you, going someplace else, hopefully?
Well, thankfully I am teleworking, and thankfully my son's fairly independent. And they did. I'm in Fairfax County Public Schools, and so he had that spring thing going on too, with his kindergarten teacher. And I mean, I'm gonna pray for the best, because he would tune in and then like 10 minutes later tune out, but they were like an hour, and and he's grown developmentally, I hope, in the last 6 months. But yeah, so I'm going to be doing that full-time distance learning here with him, and hopefully, I can get my work done too. My thinking is, though, that like, if anything, as I've heard other people say, is like, if he just keeps having that love of learning and being a self-starter and not getting into trouble, then that's going to be my biggest hopes. Like, I think I can't worry about what his grades are going to be like or all this and that. There's just too much. And so, it's just,
yeah.
So I don't know. What do you guys you guys feel the same way? Like, what do you guys think?
I mean, Herb he's got more into that because my children are in preschool.
I'm nervous about my daughter because I don't think that, I hope she will get into getting up to log in. But I mean, they do that. I don't know. There's a rumor going around they might not take attendance or make sure that you're on there.
Conspiracy theory, Herb.
Log in,
right?
And basically walk away, and that's not going to be good because I'm sure there's going to be some classes that she's going to be like, I don't want to do.
I don't know. When I was in college, I didn't get graded on attendance, but I got graded on a participation, and that's how they graded you on attendance. That's how they took your attendance. It's like the sneaky way. Maybe that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope
and Herb, but y'all gonna be at work, so it's gonna be hard for y'all to figure out, like, are you doing?
The only thing is, right now the schedule is pretty good because Mom's home on Tuesday and Thursday. It's
nice.
Friday and Wednesday is the days that we have to really figure out. So we'll see.
Sounds like she's volunteering at the Y.
That's what I heard that she's going to be right there, sitting right there at the front desk,
right,
taking everything in with the laptop. We'll help her out with school.
Right. You probably will love getting out the house anyway.
Yeah.
She's a people person like me, so she wouldn't want to sit in the house by herself, 4 or 5 days a week. So.
Does she like roller skating?
It's going to be very interesting.
A little bit, yeah. She roller skates, basketball, soccer. She's now all of a sudden interested in softball, so we'll see.
Anita, it's a
Why
great.
Why is she getting softball? That's so interesting. Sorry, not to ask that, but that's just interesting.
Well, I was gonna say, it's interesting that, Anita, you asked about roller skating because I doing my research for the show, I went onto your website and I saw a small tidbit. Strange enough, you didn't go a ton of detail about it, so you must have saved it for us specifically here on the podcast, which I'm super happy about. But can you kind of talk a little bit about why you're asking about rollerblading and what's your past with that?
Well, it's roller skating with quads, and the reason why I asked that is just because she's especially girls. Like, I feel like so. Anyways, I used to be a roller girl. I joined the DC Roller Girls like in 2007, and so that's why I was asking. They still have DC Roller Girls. Of course, during COVID, they can't do anything except all the girls are doing their own individual things. And it was really empowering for me, as a female, younger, going through different things in my life. And so I was just thinking about, she likes roller skating, because for me, that's something else besides writing that, like, I'll even just now put my skates on and go to like the empty parking lot when my son's not around or something like that, and just roller skate. And so, but that's why I asked, because I'm going to say roller skating is a great exercise. And then the roller girl idea, it's just a huge, I don't know, when, we think about this COVID and the things going on this year, it's a really great diverse group of ladies and referees that help support it. And so I would really recommend anybody that's interested in, learning more about that also, because it's empowering.
That is so cool.
I was like, what?
Aggressive.
When
I'm not an aggressive person, so when I joined, I was like, "What do you mean I have to hit them?" Like,
oh wow, yeah, that's kind of
because that's immediately what I thought about. Was like, all right, man, she's out here writing children's books during the day, and she's out here throwing bows at night,
which is pretty awesome. Cool. I feel like would be a great superhero combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Right.
How do you say superhero?
I love it.
I'm in my superhero colored room wearing my Wonder Woman earrings because I'm a superhero fan. So
There you go.
See? Here we go. Roll it, girl. There we go.
Which kind of brings me to my next question. I think, you know, you have a 6-year-old son, and obviously you're an author and a parent. What were some of your favorite books when you were growing up to read or have read to yourself? And then do you, you know, try to not push, but do you try to read those to your son in hopes that he, you know, you guys can kind of connect on that deeper level, like, oh, we shared this at childhood and things like that? Or is he completely opposite and like, nope, these are the stories that I love?
Well, actually, one of my favorite authors is a Canadian author. His name is Robert Munsch. And I think in America, his main story that everybody knows is Love You Forever. But I've known because he's Canadian. I actually grew up in Canada. And so his books are very funny and very popular up there. And like, they're just silly comedies. For example, there's one called Andrew's Loose Tooth, you know, and the kid's tooth won't come out. So everybody tries to pull it out different ways, you know, dentist, fairy, tooth fairy, all these different ways, apple, you know, tying it. And it's just really funny and really silly. And then there's another one called Aaron's, I might be getting the name wrong, Somebody's Hair. And it's basically where the kid's hair just lifts off his head because he hates him and it runs away. And so that's one of my favorite books that I like because or the series, I guess, my style, because it's creative. It's outside the box. Like, life is so full of negativity, I guess. And Robert Munsch writes these just silly stories, like imaginative, like, you know, out of the box things. And then the Love You Forever story, and I actually hold it in my hand because it's like, just thinking about it, that if you haven't seen it, because it's just such a warm, caring story. And my son sometimes will just come up to me now and like start saying some of the words in it or sing it because it's just, you know, especially now when he's
so cute. Yes.
Go it while it lasts.
Oh, dang. So
sounds like Herb doesn't get as much love at home from the kids as he used to. Right.
Maybe you should read this book to them. See what they.
Oh, I know.
Correct.
They might change their tune. I don't know.
Start quoting it like scripture for when you tell them to clean their dishes or clean up after themselves.
Right.
Mhm. Right.
Okay.
I love it. Well, Ben, are we at the end of tonight? Because at the end of every episode, we usually like to promote small businesses. And so we wanted to have you promote your small business and promote your books and let everybody know where they can purchase them as well.
Great. All right. Well, thanks. So as you guys said her again, but I'll just repeat my name. It's Anita Vermeer. And so it's actually my website and my Facebook and Instagram and everything is AnitaVermeer27.com or, you know, on the alt tags, Anita Vermeer 27. And just to throw out, the reason why is because 27 is the number of my birthday and also was my roller girl number. So it's an important one for me. So
I like that.
Yeah. And so anyway, if you go there, you can find information about
your age.
Sorry, what'd you say, B? Or Herbert?
Your age. 27.
That's not my age. Well, wish I could be 27 forever. I'll say that. Do I look 27?
You can say you were writing since you were 7 years old. Since you said you've been in it for 20 years. That's okay too.
Correct. Right. Yes.
So, yeah. Yes. It's my number. So if you go to that website or follow me or any of those kinds of things, you know, you'll be able to find my most recent books or things I'm working on and stuff like that, and possibly sign up for some free tidbits and stuff that have new books and stuff coming out. And real quick, what I was going to just show is I hold up my 3 riddle and rhyme books because they're available on Amazon also. So if you look up my name or type riddles and rhymes, then you can see it. And I had this is another reason why I finally got my books out, because before I was thinking I had to just do one and put them all together, and I kept brainstorming too much. And by networking with other people, I learned it's actually better to break it up into chunks, because that way if people are interested in a specific theme, they don't have to spend a lot. They can just buy the one book. So, this one's just seasons and holidays. If you just want to do it once a month or something like that. So, whereas if your kid's into farm, then you might be more into, a different one. So, at the back of the riddle and rhyme books too, it has all the word cards for parents if they wanted to use them to help kids read or integrate it with the rhymes and things like that. And I hope my dating book will be released soon. So if you follow me, you'll learn about that.
Yes. How about when they follow you, they will learn when your book comes out. Yeah.
Yes, please do. Yeah. And I like to post little tidbits sometimes of just things that my son are doing, things we talked about, if he's reading something on his own, or, just to share that knowledge and those ideas with everyone. And, just sharing a beautiful sun rainbow or something one day. So, I try to share some inspiration, because like I said earlier, I used to feel a lot of intimidation around things. And through roller derby and networking with people, I learned to, it's overcome these fears and be confident in doing stuff. So I want to also share that message in some way, not just my books. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, it's so cool. Yeah. Yes, we do appreciate when somebody can come on and share their work with the community, especially children's books, and around this time where we already know everything's going to be virtual. So it's great to find out new resources around the community. So thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully some people learn some unique things from it, and all the stuff that you do, and the books seem like.
Sounds like we're going to be reading your dating book soon. And finding out and looking at some silly stuff.
You can always reference, even though, you can look at it and go, oh yeah, I've done that.
Well, Herb might want to learn so that when his kids get a little older in the dating world out there, that he knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Correct. Right? Correct.
I think it'll be fun for us as a social media thing.
They got a lot of apps out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
About different ones every day now. I'm like, what? And not from my kids. I'm hearing about from other people. So.
Correct. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
We truly appreciate it, and we will have you back on so you can talk about your books that have came out, of course, like the dating book and whatnot. So
that would be interesting.
Yeah, we look forward to it. Yeah, right. That'll be cool.
Appreciate y'all for joining us. Another one down.
Yeah, until next time.
Until next time. Thank you, Anita, for coming and sharing your world with us. And Mr. Ben, as usual, fine job.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Always good seeing you, B. So
right.
Next time.
Thank you.
The Real to Real podcast is presented by Herbert Williams Bafo and Bianca Moskaitis. Our producer is Ben Runyon. Our technical director is Nick Patry. Audio and video lead is Megan Kotner. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow and like us on Facebook and Instagram at Real to Real, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or anywhere else podcasts are found. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. It's been real with Coach Herb and B.